Today we're going to be looking at 12 running backs you can pick up off waivers for week 15. Some of these are names that you've seen over these last few weeks. However, we've seen some injuries last week, making the waiver wire kind of juicy, which is rare this late in the season. We got some options to look at the running back position. We can't really say that about wide receiver, but the running back position, we got some names to look at. We're going to dig in here. We're going to look at these running backs, but before we do, you need to click that subscribe button right now. I'm going to help you get through the playoffs. I'm going to help you with the waiver wire. We always help you set those lineups every week, and also next year for your research, for your drafts in August, I'm going to be here for you, and if you don't hit that button, you're not going to get those advanced metrics. You're not going to get those player values and everything else. Hit that subscribe button. Stop missing out. Let's start things off with Ezekiel Elliott. He's rostered in 61.6% of ESPN leagues. I expect him to be rostered in your league, so we're going to cut this quick. He's getting a lot of touches with Ramondre Stevenson out. That's going to give him some opportunities. That's going to allow him to be productive. Is he going to hit every week? No. But he should score you enough to get you by damn near every week. So that's something to look at going forward with Ezekiel Elliott. But the questions are about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and these Chiefs running backs. Last week, you saw a 48.5% snap share, 62.5% opportunity share, and 4 targets. You know what? He's not the greatest running back. He just isn't. He's not the most talented. He's not the most effective, not the most athletic. He's in a spot here where there's going to be moments, if he's getting this workload, where he will be productive in fantasy. I don't know if you can trust it, because we also got Jerick McKinnon here seeing a 45.5% snap share, so they're splitting the work pretty good. He's only getting about a 30% opportunity share. Again, this is a sample one game. 3 targets, but he scored the touchdown, outscored him in fantasy, so that makes it even a bigger conundrum here, because Clyde Edwards-Helaire won out on the workload. Jerick McKinnon won out on the fantasy scoring here. You know what? I do not trust Andy Reid. I do not trust this backfield. My whole take last week was pick your poison between these two running backs. And the market says, even with the roster rate, even with the start rate, that it was pretty tight. And not everybody was trusting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And a lot of people were going with Jerick McKinnon. Even though the news and the media from Andy Reid and company, from the coaching staff, saying that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to be the starter. People read in that intelligently, and the market said, hey, we like Jerick McKinnon too. We're going to roll with that. We saw that in the start rates over on Sleeper. We're seeing this on the roster percentage here. 36% for Jerick McKinnon versus 34% for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So it's about even Steven on the pickups right now. Pick your poison with these guys. If I had to pick, it'd be Jerick McKinnon. But right now, logic is also saying Clyde Edwards-Helaire is getting the touches. I just don't trust him. And I don't trust these running backs. I think you're just going to have to spitball this one. I think you can shake them in a bag, pull one out, see what happens with it. If you have both, maybe you want to play the matchups. Maybe you want to look in the future here. McKinnon's going to get more work in the passing, and he should. Clyde Edwards-Helaire actually got more targets, but McKinnon's a little bit better in the passing game due to the gusto, due to what we saw last year. But looking at both these running backs, you're not trusting, and that's my take. You don't trust it. You're not going to trust Chase Brown, but he's explosive. Last 2 games, a 21.8% snap share, 27.4% opportunity share, and getting you 12.8 PPR fantasy points per game. Went off last week. Went off in week 14. 8 carries, 25 yards, but he had that touchdown. That huge touchdown that allowed him to be productive. He's getting snaps intermittently, even though Joe Mixon is outworking him 2-to-1 snaps, touches, and everything else. You can see him being a top-tier handcuff. You can see him being like a Keaton Mitchell-esque running back, where you don't get those too often, where, you know what, he's plug and play. You may not want to start him, but you may want him on the back end of your roster as that handcuff piece that, you know what, if something happens to Joe Mixon, you got him. You got him. You don't have to worry about it. And Joe Mixon, he was banged up a little bit on some plays, came out for a couple plays, came back in. And that's what happens with running backs. They get a full workload, and their time is always coming. And Chase Brown looks like once he gets his opportunity, he's going to be good to roll. Looking at him for 2024, he's a running back that you're going to be wanting to draft as a top-tier cuff, or maybe as a 1B back in 2024. Josh Jacobs left with a knee injury with 6 plays left in the game. Zamir White got some carries. Zamir Abdullah got some work as well. Zamir White's the upside play here due to the size and just athleticism, due to him pounding it out between the tackles. I look for both these running backs to split up the workload if Jacobs is out for some time. But White is the guy to get if you're shooting for upside. I think Amir Abdullah is probably going to hold a little bit of value too as the 1B back, the guy catching the balls out of the backfield. So don't sleep on him either, especially if you're hurting, especially if you're in a deeper league, 14, 16 teamer, you need a running back, maybe. But we're watching Josh Jacobs. Size adjusted athleticism matters. Zamir White is a decent prospect here that could hammer it between the tackles, get some opportunity, and give you some fantasy relevancy down the line. So you really need to pay attention to the situation. But we like Zamir White as a handcuff for Josh Jacobs. Ty Chandler's back here. Alexander Madison left with an ankle injury. That means he's going to be getting the opportunities again. And he's a running back that can score tons of fantasy points on any given drive. And there was one touchdown that was called back earlier this season. And if he would have scored on that, it was like a 34-yard run. It would have really ignited the flames of the echo chamber on Twitter, on the market. Ty Chandler would have been a household name, would have been up there with Keaton Mitchell, but he's been scoring very good, off and on, getting opportunities here. Had 12 carries in this game, 35 yards, not great, but we want to chase the workload. We know we have upside here with his speed. 12.3 touches per game. He's just a home run threat. You never know what you're going to get with running backs like that. But again, we're chasing touches and we're chasing upside. Deonta Foreman looks like he's back. Saw 11 carries in his comeback performance here from that injury. We got Arizona week 16. That's why we want him. We got Arizona week 16. And we know Foreman's probably going to get somewhat, if not all, of that workload that he used to have. And when he was getting that workload, when he was getting those opportunities, he was up and down. But you know what? We start running backs against the Arizona Cardinals. That's week 16. You may want them picked up for that. I know it's week 15 right now, but let's get ahead of this. Let's get ahead of this. You have them. So the other guys in your league can't start them in week 16 too. You don't have to start them. You don't have to. Even if things fall off, you don't have to. Week 16 against the Cardinals, you don't want him in somebody else's lineup in the playoffs. You don't want that happening. You may want to pick him up now. Keaton Mitchell, same thing. He led all running backs on the Ravens with 9 touches. Also led them in early down work and snaps in week 14 as well. He's getting more workload. Just the game scripts have been weird. Game scripts against the Chargers, game scripts against the Rams. Tough game scripts over the next 3 weeks, though. He's going to be hard to rely on. He might be a guy you're going to look at, scratch your head at, and he's just a home run swing. He might strike out on you. He might hit, and he's a guy that can hit on these weird matchups, but he's also a guy that can strike out a lot, too. He's going to be an up and down running back. We've said this all season long. Even though we did 50 videos on him, we've said this. It's an up and down play here. He's very volatile until things start to iron out. Looks like it's not going to iron out because the Ravens really shouldn't, especially when they're starting to get in weird game scripts. They're starting to throw it a little bit more. That being said, Keaton Mitchell, home run play. If you want to play that, Antonio Gibson, keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on Brian Robinson. Exited week 13 with a hamstring. They went on by in week 14, but still he's getting 5 targets per game, being used in the passing game. Some rough matchups coming up, though. Rams, Jets, Niners. You're going to have to pick your poison, but he is getting touches. He is getting opportunities. And if that's what you need, just opportunities, and you just got to pray to the gods, then maybe Antonio Gibson. Tajay Spears did well last night. Did well. He's a huge handcuff. Something happens to Derrick Henry, like we've been saying it since week 1. Something happens to him. Everybody's running Tajay Spears. And I think he's an easy pickup off waivers too. Will Levis is starting to sling it to him a little bit. He's got some upside in the passing game. And he's a guy, he's a hope and prayer right now. Because he's not getting a full workload. Right opportunities, right game script. Things going his way on a couple series. He can splash on you. That's for sure. Kenneth Gainwell is a cuff. And that's it. He's not for lineups. He's not for lineups, but he's a cuff because of DeAndre Swift. His injury history, it's been very extensive over the course of his career. It's been very up and down. And if something happens to Swift, everybody's running to Gainwell. You got a spot for a cuff, there's a cuff for you. Isaiah Spiller, a sneaky name to look at here on the waiver wire. But Josh Kelly's done. The Chargers kind of told us that when we were looking at the snap share. But he saw a 23.1% opportunity share in week 14, a 17.6% snap share. out-snapping Josh Kelly. There was a lot of ambiguity going into this game at the running back position. They were saying there's going to be competition, and they did not let us know what the competition was going to be like, and we really wanted to watch Austin Ekeler and see how he did. Ekeler did good enough to hold these guys back, but Isaiah Spiller is starting to see some opportunities here. If you're in a deeper league, or if you need to speculate on something, if you're watching these Chargers, you need to watch Isaiah Spiller. I'm just sounding the horn, shining the light here, saying, hey, there's something here. This is an indicator. We're starting to see more snaps, targets, opportunities, everything with Isaiah Spiller. Look at him just in case the worst happens with Ekeler and things start to ramp up. Those are 12 running backs that we're looking at off the waiver wire for Week 15. Who are you picking up off the waivers right now to help you get through the playoffs? I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.